we are talking about coordinate geometry along with the special types of parallelograms. So what I'm going to focus in on, these are the properties of all the parallelograms, and I noticed that 3 of them kind of stand out here. The 3 I'm going to focus in on is the diagonals bisect each other. As we talked about coordinate geometry yesterday, we know that what that means is we're going to be using the midpoint formula to determine that. If my diagonals, the midpoints are the same, then those diagonals bisect each other. Okay? The second one that I'm going to focus in on to determine whether it's a rectangle or not is I'm going to look at whether the diagonals are congruent or not, and that is going to be the distance formula. And then the third one that I'm going to worry about is the diagonals are perpendicular, and in order to do that, I'm going to use the slope formula. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to try to classify the quadrilaterals by using coordinate geometry. So I'm going to start off and I'm going to graph them. So A10, A is at 0, 10, B is at 4, 2, C is at -2, -1, D is at -6, 7. Then I'm going to take those, connect them, and then that tells me that DB and AC are the diagonals. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is just to kind of ease everything here, I'm going to split it up and I'm going to do DB on this side, and I am going to find the midpoint, the distance, and the slope of DB. And then I'm going to come over here to the other side and I'm going to work with AC now. And I am going to do the midpoint. I'm going to do the distance. And I am going to do the slope here. Okay, so now we start in. Let's just do the midpoint. So I'm going to start, remember the midpoint formula, we add our 2 x's together, divide it by 2. So for DB, I've got 4 plus -6 is a -2 divided by 2. So that would be at -1. 2 plus 7 is 9 divided by 2 would be at 9/2. Okay, if I go over here to AC, 0 plus -2 is -2, divided by 2 is -1. 10 plus a -1 is 9. 9 divided by 2 is 9/2. So what that tells me right away is that tells me that these bisect. Okay? So right away I know that is a parallelogram. The next one that I'm going to do is the distance formula. So now I'm going to start in with DB. Remember to do the distance. We subtract the 2 x's, square them, added to the 2 y's, subtracted, squared. So I'm going to go 4 minus a -6. That's 10, 10 squared. And then I'm going to go 2 minus 7 is a -5 squared. So 10 squared is 100. -5 squared is 25. So that's going to give me the square root of 125. I know that that can be simplified, but right now I'm not really worried about that part as much. What I want to focus in on is it the same? So I'm going to go to the distance of AC. So 0 minus -2 is 2 squared. 10 minus a -1, that would be 11 squared. 2 squared is 4. 11 squared is 121. So that is going to equal the square root of 125, which tells me that those two are congruent. Okay, so that's the next step. So now I know it's a parallelogram, but it's also more specific. It is a rectangle. So then the next thing I want to do is the slope. So remember, to do the slope, we take y minus y over x minus x. So to find the slope of DB, I'm going to go 2 minus 7 is -5. 4 minus a -6 is 10, which simplifies to a -1/2. Now I come back and I try the slope of AC. So I'm going to go 10 minus a -1, that's 11. 0 minus -2, which is 2. And those are not. So what that tells me is they are not perpendicular. So then here's my answer then. So what shape is it? This would be ABCD is a rectangle because the diagonals bisect and are congruent. Okay? And that's how you're going to do that process. Let's try another one here. So again, we're going to start off, we're going to plot them first. So I'm going to go over here, 5, 1, 2, 3. B, I have 8, 6. C is at 2, 6. And D is at 5, 9. And I'm going to connect those. I'm going to figure out which combination are they going to be. So I have AD and BC. Okay, so again, I'm going to split my workspace up here a little bit. And on one side, I'm going to do AD. On the other side, I'm going to do BC. And on this side, I want to do the midpoint, distance, and slope. On the other side, I'm going to do the midpoint. I'm going to do the distance. And I'm going to do the slope. Okay? So now we come back and we start in A to D. So remember, for midpoint, we simply take and we add the two x's, divide. So A to D would be 5 plus 5 is 10 divided by 2. So that would be at 5. 3 plus 9 is 12 divided by 2. That would be 6. So now I want to do BC. So on BC, I have 8 plus 2 is 10 divided by 2 is 5. 6 plus 6 is 12 divided by 2 is 6. So right away, I know that these bisect each other. Okay, the second thing I do is I come in here and I do the distance now. So now I'm going to do my x's. So A to D, remember we subtract those. So 5 minus 5 is 0 squared plus 3 minus 9 is -6 squared. So that would be the square root of 36. Come back in on the other side here to BC. So on BC, I'm going to go 8 minus 2 squared, that's 6. 6 minus 6 is 0 squared. So again, that's the square root of 36. So what that tells me is, yes, they are congruent. So then we come back. Now we're going to find the slope, so of AD. So I'm going to go 3 minus 9 is -6. 5 minus 5 is 0, so that is an undefined slope. Over here on the other side, I'm going to go BC. So 8 minus 2 is, 6 minus 6 is 0. 8 minus 2 is 6. So that is a 0 slope, which that means that they are perpendicular, because remember that a undefined slope is a vertical line, a 0 slope is a horizontal line, and a vertical line is always perpendicular to a horizontal. So what kind is it? It is a square, because the diagonals bisect. Okay, so the diagonals bisect, they are congruent and perpendicular. Okay, so let's try this last one here. So again, I'm going to start off graphing -2, 6. That's going to be A. B is at 6, 8. That is B. C is at 4, 0. And D is at -4, -2. Okay, so there we have it. So here I know that my diagonals are AC and BD. Then I'm going to take those now, and I'm going to find AC on this side. I'm going to find BD on this side. I'm going to be looking for midpoint, distance, and slope. And over here, I'm going to find midpoint, distance, and slope. Okay, so here we go then. Let's start in. So to find the midpoint of AC, so I'm going to go -2 plus 4 is 2, divided by 2 is 1. 6 plus 0 is 6, divided by 2 is 3. BD, I'm going to go 6 plus 4 is 10, divided by 2 is... I am so sorry, I was adding the wrong thing. 6 plus -4, I was doing BC, BD. 6 plus -4 is 2, 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 plus -2 is 6, 6 divided by 2 is 3. So therefore, we know these bisect. I apologize on that. Okay, make sure you have the right ones, I guess would be a good teaching moment there. Distance. So again, A to C. So we're going to go -2 minus 4. That is -6 squared. 6 minus 0, that is 6 squared. So that's going to give me the square root of 72 because you got 36 and 36. On the second side over here, we have the square root of BD. So 6 minus -4, that's 10 squared, plus 8 minus -2, that's 10 squared. So that's going to give us the square root of 200. So that tells me that they are not congruent. Then I come back. Now I'm going to find the slope. So I look for the slope of A to C. So I'm going to start off 6 minus 0 is 6. -2 minus 4 is -6, which is -1. The slope of BD, that's going to be 8 minus -2, which is 10. And then 6 minus -4, which is 10, which is a positive 1. So that tells me that they are perpendicular. So if they bisect, they're not congruent, and are perpendicular, then this is a rhombus, because the diagonals bisect and are perpendicular. And that's what gets us a rhombus. And that's how we do that process.